Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabela with Hard Lens Media, and this is Perspective. We're going to switch things up a little bit. We're going to return back to a strong front-running candidate from the Democratic primary. That's right, I'm going to talk about the guy that was shaking things up, the person who was in all the leading articles, the person who, hey, we're surprised that he didn't beat Joe Biden. No, I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders. I'm not talking about Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not talking about Andrew Yang or Ben on my Stork or Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris. I'm talking about Senator Michael Bennett. Who? I know, hang on. You gotta rewind back the clocks a little bit. This is a guy who says he's on our side, says he's fighting for universal health care or something like that. He's a Democrat, of course, but when appearing on MSNBC, and the anchors are talking to him about Medicare for All, because, it turns out, Medicare for All, it's not a dumb idea at all. In fact, if the rest of the world has figured it out, maybe it's about time the American people have Medicare for All. But not according to Michael Bennett. Hold on, he's going to give his perspective, his point of view. Check this video clip out.
Senator, you and I had a conversation, or many conversations, about big structural change when you were running for president. And I'm wondering, after this pandemic or during it now, are you reconsidering your look at universal health care or something along those lines? Are those sort of proposals that were big and bold during the presidential campaign that got put a bit on the back burner, do you think that they have are you looking at them differently today?
I believe that the proposals that I made during the presidential campaign, which were not widely paid attention to, I will admit, were the biggest, boldest, and best proposals that anybody made. Nobody else made a proposal to cut childhood poverty by 40% in 1 year in America. I did. I believe strongly in universal health care then, and I believe in it now. I just don't think Bernie's plan is the way of ever getting there. And I'm so desperate for universal health care that I think we should be fighting for something else that we can actually get done. Not because it's a small idea, but we can actually do it because we can build support with the American people, because 70% of the American people support the ideas I put forward on the campaign trail, not 30% of Democrats. If we're willing to do that, I think we're going to start winning races in the states we need to have a convincing majority in the Senate again. We'll hold on to the House. We'll win the presidency, and we will be able to build momentum for a progressive agenda that ends childhood poverty in this country, that creates an education system that's driving economic opportunity for people, and a healthcare system that works for everybody in the country so people have primary care. I don't need to tell people that the pandemic revealed for me the inequality in this country. I have believed that we had profound inequality for decades, and anybody who spent any time in a school with poor kids in this country know how deeply unfair our society is. So nobody needs to lecture me about the need for structural change. Nobody needs to lecture me about whether we should make progress. I'm committed to what I ran on, and I believe that will deliver for the American people the kind of change that we need to have a democracy that can be sustained.
So like all politicians, he goes on a rant. They're full of hot air. All they do is just let it all out. The whole time. That's it. And he doesn't like being lectured about Medicare for All, or because he's saying that no other candidate can do what he can do, and no one was as on point like he was. I mean, really, sometimes you got to look at these politicians, whether they're Democrat and Republican, and we got to really ask ourselves, are they living in our world, or are they all crazy people and they have just a different version of just how things went down? Because last I checked, he didn't make it all the way to the Iowa primary. I mean, he was just done. Mediocre at best. But hold on, he's not done talking.
Into the 21st century, that's what's at stake here. And we gotta win these elections to begin with, not just the presidency, but the Senate as well.
Senator Michael Bennett, not a lecture, just a question, going back to some of our earlier conversations.
I know, but I remember, Katie, when you asked me the campaign, why can't we just have Medicare for all? And my point is, we need universal health care.
I was curious what your opinion on it was.
We need universal health care coverage. We
I'll
gotta
moderate
win the
this
race
debate if you'd like.
hearts and minds of the American people. I'm on your side.
Senator-
and then we got to
Senator
make more
Michael
change
Bennett.
after that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you so much
Good
for
to see
joining
you.
us. Let's always continue these conversations. I love having them. Chuck, over to you.
So, again, Democrats, you wonder why you lose. And let's face it, Medicare for All is starting to become popular, not only just with progressives and democratic socialists and left-leaning independents, but there's some Republicans and yes, some libertarians and some non-affiliate voters that are warming up to the idea of Medicare for All. Because if the rest of the world, like I said before, like I said on the show before, like the rest of my co-hosts have said before, if the rest of the world can figure out how to have Medicare for All, single-payer health care, well then, so can we. But yet, as a politician, these Democrats, they don't like being lectured to. And somehow they're living in this fantasy world that they're going to retake the Senate and House. Now, to be fair, anything can happen during this election. Anything can go down. And maybe there is a possibility where Joe Biden beats Donald Trump and the Democrats can potentially, win the Senate and House. But we got to remember, the last time the Democrats had the presidency, the Senate, and the House, it was under the time of Barack Obama. And what did he do with it? Nothing. What? Obamacare? The Affordable Care Act? AKA Romney Care? That was created by the Heritage Foundation? Yeah, Democrats, you need to be lectured to. Same thing with the Republican politicians too, because more and more Americans want Medicare for all. And of course, they're going to go on corporate media and give their perspective and their point of view. But we must all take a step back and ask ourselves, when is the last time the Senate and the House represented the people? Because the people want, Medicare for all. The people want to have a conversation and a real policy about dealing with student debt forgiveness. The people want to talk about the threat of climate change, rebuilding our infrastructure, a real UBI. So you know what? To the news anchors, they should have pushed back. And I'm not asking for them to lecture, but hey, facts are facts. And right now, 36 million Americans are on unemployment, and that number is possibly going to keep on rising. And let's also count in the fact that there's possible Americans that are right now not even being counted. Plus, let's add on the Americans who are also unemployed, underemployed, that are not being counted as well before COVID-19. So there's a lot of Americans, who did have jobs, whose health insurance was tied to their jobs because, in America, we have to pay for health care. Madness and stupidity. This is the world we're living in, and the politicians think that, well, they're able to handle things, just don't lecture at them. Stupidity. Ignorance. And this is why we got to break this two-party system. But be prepared to see more video clips like this and see other politicians saying the exact same thing because they live in their own bubble. But just remember, a lot of those politicians in the United States Senate and House, they got a good healthcare system. We're the ones paying for it. This is Kit Cabell with Hard Lens Media, and this is Perspectives. Peace, everyone.